When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lose. That's why I bet with Fanatics Sportsbook. When I bet with them, I earn fan cash, win or lose, and I can flip fan cash into bonus bets or use it for new Knicks apparel at Fanatics.com. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
What's going on, Knicks fans? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Cap Rules Everything Around Me. Cream, get the money, dollar bills, y'all. My name is Jeremy Cohen, and we are about 23 hours away from the official start of free agency. Doesn't mean players can sign right away, but it means that we'll start getting some news about players changing teams or staying where they're at. All sorts of things. We had a flurry of moves in the last couple of days. And of course, I don't want to bury the lead. The biggest one of all moves that came out today, you know, the reason why you're probably listening in on this, the reason why you're here. So yes, it's true. Duncan Robinson exercised his early termination option with the Miami Heat. It was for $20 million. He decided he wanted to opt out of it. He's trying to work with the Miami Heat. Maybe he'll work on a sign and trade. Maybe he'll work on some sort of deal coming back. We'll figure it out. But I know that a lot of people have been talking about it, especially 2021 Jonathan Macri, who was very excited about a Duncan Robinson signing. So that's really it. I don't know. The Knicks don't have, they can only offer the taxpayer middle exception for him. So that was the big thing. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, not a whole lot. Pretty quiet. The Knicks picked up R.L. Hukporty's team option. They declined P.J. Tucker's deal. That was expected. Both of those things were expected. They extended a qualifying offer to Kevin McCullough, making him a restricted free agent. And so other than that, with some other teams made some moves. And, the Jazz. Yes, the Jazz made a trade of Colin Sexton. They trade Colin Sexton to the Hornets for Nurkic. They actually attached a second-round pick, which is a little puzzling, but I guess if you want to be bad. Other than that, I mean, it seems all quiet on the Western front. Andrew, am I missing anything or anyone?
Yes, one very big one. Can you please get to Bobby Portis already? That's what everybody is here to talk about.
Sorry,
you talk about in particular.
Well, that's true. I did. My apologies. Bobby Portis did agree to a new contract. I believe it was around 3 years, $44 million. He had a player option, could have had, but now he's got multiple years. So the Bucks, they're moving and grooving. You know, the East is wide open this year, so they were another threat. I mean, if we want to go West, maybe there's another team we could talk about.
Well, so the chat is letting us know that we should talk about what happened with the Lakers and their important player, Dorian Finney-Smith.
I was going to say, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to spend your monologue talking about him, by all means, go right ahead.
Absolutely. So Dorian Finney-Smith had a player option, and with that player option, he could have opted in. Instead, he declined it, and now he can sign wherever he wants or to a team that has cap space. Now, why did Dorian Finney-Smith decline the player option? I thought that he might opt in and extend off of that. That was a pretty good move if I'm Dorian Finney-Smith. If I'm, 32 years old and I can hit threes and play some defense, it stands to reason why I would want to do that. And of course, then there's another reason, which is LeBron James. So let's talk about LeBron James. Here's the thing about LeBron James. LeBron James opted into his player option, $52.6 million. LeBron did not have to opt in. He could have opted out and he could have secured more money. And now, of course, opting in, saving them them being the Lakers, a little bit more money gives them some more flexibility to sign a big man to be posted or to be signed alongside him as he and Luka Doncic and any of the other players on this team try to move forward. And then, of course, Rich Paul comes out with a quote that I was stunned to read. And that quote was about LeBron saying he knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. When I saw this, I was sitting down and I still nearly fell to the ground. And look, the Lakers could retain LeBron James, and this is all just a leverage play by Rich Paul to say, you know, we want to put pressure on the Lakers to bring the best talent in-house. If we don't do that, then my client, LeBron James, who has a no trade clause, he can try to push for a trade somewhere. But this feels like the first time, maybe ever, maybe the only other time I can think of is when LeBron said, and that we just have public knowledge of, where LeBron said to Pat Riley, I want Eric Spoelstra gone. And Pat Riley said, no, we're not doing that. You're going to have to deal with him. And he did. And they won 2 titles and made, I believe, 4 NBA finals appearances together. So this feels like LeBron is actually being told your leverage is slim because you could opt out and we may not even try to sign you. And then we try to work out a sign and trade. But then there's complexity because you have to find the right team. You don't have a no trade clause. Some teams are going to be hard capped, or whatever team would acquire him in a sign and trade is hard capped at the first apron. But if he opts in and is dealt, as long as more money is going out the door, then the team that acquires him isn't hard capped at the first apron necessarily. So if you're LeBron, this is actually opting in as the best way to protect yourself. But let's talk about the Lakers, and the future and what all that means. The thing that I haven't seen discussed really at all, and mind you, I've been a little bit offline today. I've been seeing the push notifications coming in, but I've been trying to find some time just to stay offline before the next few days are chaotic. And the thing that I just haven't seen a whole lot of, the Lakers were just purchased for $10 billion. That was the cost. If I'm Mark Walter and I'm leading the charge with Guggenheim Group and all of that, why am I spending all this money for a LeBron farewell tour when I see that the future is Luka Doncic? And you could even make some sort of conspiracy theory argument, and I wouldn't even disagree with it, where you would say the Lakers going out and getting Luka, boosting their value and the valuation, and then someone coming in who is already, I believe, a minority owner and purchasing a majority stake in the team, that probably helps you. If you're Jeannie Buss, if you're the Buss family and you want to sell because you're maybe not the most cash rich, you're not super liquid. So you found someone who is, and they've purchased the team and they're saying, why am I letting a player who, by his own words from caught on camera, might be retiring in a season or so? So if I'm Mark Walter, I want no part in that. I want to get ahead of this, which then goes to the point of there's a world where LeBron is seriously no longer with the Lakers. The quote by Rich Paul feels like trying to get ahead of something. And then Dorian Finney-Smith opting out of his contract, being rumored to go to a team like the Houston Rockets, among other suitors that are out there. Suddenly, if you're Los Angeles, whoa, you traded Anthony Davis. You got Luka Doncic in the door. The fit between Luka and LeBron is, especially as LeBron ages, a bit murky, even though they're both fantastic ball players. Now you're losing key pieces. This feels like it's escalating very quickly with how things are going. And if I am a Lakers fan, I'm at least wondering, have I seen the last of LeBron James in purple and gold? And if you're LeBron, where do you want to go? There are some options out there. You could look at Cleveland as an option. Of course, like I said, he has the no trade clause, so he can veto any trade. You could look at a place like Philly, but other than that, they've got Paul George's contract. That could match, but if I'm Los Angeles, I'm building for the future. I'd like something more than the corpse of Paul George at this point and the 3 other years that he has on his deal. I want some sort of sweetener. You'd have to think that if that were a viable trade, if that could have happened, maybe it happens before the NBA draft. Does he want to go to San Antonio? You've got Victor Wembanyama. You've got De'Aaron Fox, another clutch client right there. The ability to capitalize on the core. There's Minnesota, where you've got another clutch client in Anthony Edwards. They obviously couldn't get Kevin Durant to really want to lock in on that type of deal. The question being, if you're LeBron, where do you want to go? And of course, then it leaves a team like the New York Knicks. Now, if you've seen the cap or no caps that we've done on Kevin Durant or Giannis Antetokounmpo, but really the Kevin Durant one, because that was kind of the most succinct in terms of how you make these numbers work. There are 3 ways to go about it with Kevin Durant, with LeBron James. Number 1, it's essentially saying Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and figure out how that money works. Number 2, it's OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, and the money pretty much works there. Number 3, Karl Anthony Towns, money pretty much works there. Of course, if you need to spruce in any other finances, you can make that work. But just kind of working backwards, if I'm the Knicks, again, I look at LeBron James, a man who is turning 41 years old in December. And that's a little concerning to me because you want, of course, you want to push your chips into the middle. You want a championship, but there's a certain level of it where it's like, do you really want to shortcut your own window? Like, yes, obviously there's no denying LeBron James, one of, if not the greatest player of all time. I'll let the chat argue that out if they want. That's not really the conversation that I want to go into right now. But if you're a team like the Knicks, and then you look at, okay, well, maybe you go through the OG and Mitch portion. Cool. You could do that. And you're then, how are you defensively? How are you adding to that? Of course, your offense is going to be humming, but then if you're missing time with LeBron, but then you've got 2 players who are not the healthiest in their careers, and OG Anunoby, despite being healthy last year, which is great. Mitchell Robinson, those guys are going out. So you need to find someone to replace at least Mitch at the minimum there. Then there's the trading multiple pieces away portion. And that's the part where I look at these players and it feels exactly like with Kevin Durant, where it's like, yes, that's a great option to have, an elite player. Do you really just want 1 or 2 seasons to kind of ring out of this and then that's that? Or do you want to try to push your window of contention to longer than that? Do you want to make it, nothing's a given in the NBA, but 4, 5, 6 years possibly. If you're able to push it, it's not with LeBron. That's a 1 to 2 year thing. And there's a lot of pressure, of course, to win on LeBron's timeline. And that being said, if LeBron James were in New York, would I be completely against it? Of course, I would not be completely against it, but it all depends on what's going out. And it's really got to be one of those 3 packages realistically, because that's how the math has to work, because the Knicks are not going to be able to take in more money than they send out. And that's then the problem. Now, maybe he's able to force his way over. We know that if he had opted out, like I said, and then did a sign and trade to the Knicks, they would have had to get under the first apron. They would have been hard capped at the first apron for the entire offseason. That to me just doesn't feel like something they would have done. And clearly it's not going to happen. And for a lot of other teams, it probably may not either. So I don't want to give off the impression that it's impossible. It's certainly not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. It's very real in terms of how they could do it. It's just the real question the Knicks are facing is if they didn't want to go after a player like Kevin Durant due to age concerns. I understand LeBron James is a better player than Kevin Durant. It's just the question of, does that testament still hold true? Are you still worried about that? There is still holding out hope for Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's another trade I'd like to talk about a little bit later, certainly if it comes up, but if it doesn't, I'll bring it up. But we'll cross that bridge later. Where how do you find players that you can build with and build around? And there is a difference there. As I've said over the years, building with feels more like how we've got this player. They are a piece. Building around, they are a core pillar of what we do. And the idea of moving Karl Anthony Towns for maybe 2 years of LeBron James, I'd be very surprised at the Knicks doing that. So that's the gist of it for how the money would have to work. Andrew, what are your thoughts on everything that we've seen today?
So Sam Presti said something, I think a couple of years ago. honestly. And the quote circulated after the finals.
I
And
saw
it's
it.
that
Yeah.
shortcuts cut runs short. And I said I'd be on board, and I probably would absolutely probably would absolutely. That's a sentence. I would absolutely talk myself into a team that has LeBron James, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson on it.
Sure.
If you're able to make that a reality, I do agree with you. It cuts the window into this year and maybe next year. I would understand if you see what the Eastern Conference looks like this year,
Absolutely.
especially knowing that Cleveland's one of the other teams that could get LeBron. And if you get him, that means they also don't. And it heightens your chances even further of getting to the finals. But getting LeBron James means getting to the finals isn't even good enough. You would need to then win said finals. And I don't even want to think about LeBron, Cat, and Jalen Brunson. Although trying
Defensively?
to defensively against the Thunder is terrifying. I will say they would probably be able to defend against the Thunder a little bit better than we gave them credit for, because that's not that dynamic or creative in offense. So that's my thought. It would absolutely shorten your window. I would talk myself into it. It would be awesome to watch a 55-win Knicks team probably be around the 1 or 2 seed and hopefully be better than Cleveland. It would be for a season, and then he either retires or leaves, or next year is 42 years old. And where are you going from there? You're left with significant more questions in a year or two.
Yeah, the two things. The first, defensively. I mean, LeBron has worked very hard to maintain his body to be able to play, because he knows that if he's not playing, then that's a problem for him. It's a problem for his team. So defensively, my concerns are, is he taking possessions off? If he's taking possessions off to try to heal himself, to lengthen out his time, but you also have Jalen Brunson, who's not a defensive stopper. You also have Karl Anthony Towns, who needs help over there. What kind of defensive catastrophe are you potentially expecting? But the second, to your point, and referring to the one about, okay, a year or 2 years, let's fast forward a year. The Knicks gave up a package that, I mean, let's say it's Cat. Let's say it's not Cat. It doesn't really matter. And LeBron James says, you know what? Savannah says it's time for me to hang it up. And I just, I'm tired. I've set records. I've won championships. I am on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest players of all time. I don't need to do any more. I gave it my best shot. I want to pursue the business side of things. I want to be an owner. I want to go to Las Vegas perhaps and have a stake in that team. So that's it for me. And now the Knicks are in a position to like, wait a second. Hang on. Forget about any assets that we sent to get LeBron. What are we left with? We have no ability to spend in free agency because our players have the ones we've got. There's no cap space. Okay. We're also over the cap probably anyway. So maybe we get a guy on the non-taxpayer mid-level exception if we're able to stay below the first apron, because that salary of $52.6 million is off the books. What do we do? How do we keep building? Like we cashed in on 1 year. Oh my God. Yes, we could say, but if you win that year, banners hang forever. And they do. Absolutely. But what if they don't? What if they don't do it? And now you are left with the remnants of LeBron once again going to a place, wringing out the talent for him, and him saying, you foot the bill. I did my job. I did the best I could. You got me in the building. It's on to greener pastures and wishing you best of luck. And then we're sitting here a year from now saying, crap, maybe we cut that window short, like Sam Presti was saying. Maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe we should have tried to find ways to extend Jalen Brunson's prime instead of going in on 1 year. It's LeBron James, but also now we don't have LeBron James. We lost him to free, not even free agency, to going somewhere else and retiring. And that is a significant concern to me. The talent is undeniable. Father Time's undefeated. How do you cover yourself when you've just given up all that for him? And at the same time, it's LeBron James. So I'm cynically against it, but I'd understand it depending on what the haul is. But also, it's really not my preference.
Again, the only counterpoint is what if they win the title?
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally the only counterpoint you could go to. If they win the title, then it's like, all right, well, then it was worth it. It just creates that type of stakes on this season if you do that type of move.
Yeah.
We've heard championship or bust put on many a season for many a team. It is the very definition of, unless you win the last game of the regular season last game of the playoffs for the NBA, this whole thing was a failure. So,
and where I'll go with that as well is this Knicks team made the Eastern Conference Finals, was 2 wins away from the finals. The East is going to be a lot weaker. Yes, you could say getting LeBron catapults you further. You could also make the argument that the Knicks can get to where they want to get to without a 41-year-old LeBron James, and that there are other moves that they could make that still raise their floor and even their ceiling with the talent they have on this team, not even having access to trading first-round picks, but merely swaps and the Washington 2 seconds. There are still ways for them to do that, and it doesn't have to be LeBron.
I agree. And even more so, I think the fine folks over at Fanatics Sportsbook would agree, because they've got some odds for next season, Jeremy, that they would like us to go over.
Let's hear
or who might win the Eastern Conference. So if you're looking at the odds on your screen right now, you see the best, I believe these are the best 8 odds to win the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers are at plus 250. The Knicks are at plus 300. These are the 2 front runners for the Eastern Conference. Then you go to Boston, still with the 3rd best odds at plus 500. The Orlando Magic plus 500 as well, the same odds as the Boston Celtics. Then at 10-1 or greater, the Philadelphia 76ers, those losers, at plus 1100. Detroit Pistons 15-1. Indiana Pacers also 15-1, and the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo at plus 2200. How do you feel?
I feel like the Fanatics Sportsbook, is really banking on Giannis to not be on the Milwaukee Bucks. That's first and foremost, because geez, man, you have the top 3 player in the NBA, and you're saying that they have the 8th best odds just because Damian Lillard has gone out with an injury. At the same time, the Celtics are 3rd, and they lost their best player in Jason Tatum, and they just traded away Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. I don't even hate the trades for them. I just don't think it sets themselves up for the most winning that they can do right now next year. All right, let's just look at this list, because I think we can both agree if LeBron got out of the West, he'd be in a much easier conference. And if there's ever a year for LeBron to have one final ride, if it is one final ride, it's not the West. It's where it's a bloodbath. It's the East. So let's work our way up. The Bucks, they could package enough to get LeBron. They could do it if you have LeBron and Giannis. I don't necessarily know if Savannah is going to enjoy the Milwaukee winters, but if it's one season, then perhaps it doesn't really matter. You could just take the PJ to Miami or wherever you want to be. And that's another team that's not even on this list.
Yeah,
the Miami Heat, which is crazy.
I'll say this: the Miami Heat. Everybody not on this list is plus. I believe everybody not on this list is plus 2,500 or worse. Like I cut the line off at the top 8. Yes, Miami. I could pull up what those odds are in just a second, but Miami is another name you could put out there.
He's not going to Indiana. It's just not going to happen. That's not how they're built, and they just made the NBA Finals Game 7 when healthy. Of course, next season is also going to be a bit of a wash.
Real quick, plus 4,500 for
plus 4,500
Miami Heat. Yes.
Goodness, wow! So the sportsbook really is this assuming. This is assuming that LeBron's going nowhere near there, I guess.
This is, if you believe that they might get him, then plus 4,500 is great odds on the Sportsbook. So they are setting the line based off of where the money is at the moment. And it's not just the Sportsbook. Nobody seems to think that LeBron is going to Miami. But the Milwaukee, to your point, the Milwaukee number is the number that's
astounding to me. Okay. The Detroit Pistons, they're rumored to be heavily in the mix for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, especially considering Malik Beasley, the Department of Justice, having some questions about his gambling. So that'll be interesting as we look through the Fanatics Sportsbook odds as well. The Philadelphia 76ers, couldn't you see it where it's basically a clutch client and another clutch client and Joel Embiid, and they're like, hey, we've got 4 players, Jared McCain being the 4th, and we could try to find a way to sign and trade Quentin Grimes to be reunited with Luka Doncic with him in Los Angeles and use that money to go out, and maybe a third team takes on Paul George's salary and there's some incentive there. But now Philadelphia's got to fill out the rest of their roster. How healthy is Joel Embiid going to be? How much pressure is that on LeBron James? You've got Tyrese Maxey, who had an underwhelming season last year, despite still being a very talented player. The Magic, I don't quite see the fit there. They just made their Desmond Bane trade. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. The Celtics, I cannot see it happening. I just can't. Now, maybe he says, hey, we've got Tatum out, and for 1 year, you get Jaylen Brown. You do something, but he's going to want a co-star, and I don't know if Jaylen Brown's going to be the co-star for him. And there's the Knicks, of course. We've just talked through them. And then there's the Cavs, which it makes a lot of sense, where if I'm Cleveland, I don't have to give up a whole lot other than just 2 players to make the salaries match. I could give up one or two of the rotation pieces and make it work. But here's the thing about Cleveland. Cleveland is potentially over the second apron. And Andrew, what happens when you're potentially over the second apron? What can you not do?
You can't trade. You can't get more money back in than you're sending out, right?
True, but what else can you not do? Which is the bigger piece.
Quiz me on cap stuff. You can't aggregate salary. That's
there you go. I knew you'd get there.
There you go.
You've produced enough. I knew you were going to do it. So
I did know these things.
Yes. That's the bigger concern to me, is if you're Cleveland and you're spending all this money, Evan Mobley just got the Defensive Player of the Year award. That means his salary gets bumped up from a 25% max to a 30% max. You've got Donovan Mitchell. You've got Jared Allen, who just signed a fat contract. Are you doing Jared Allen and finding other salary that's like Hunter and finding ways to make the math work? Maybe you are, but you're still aggregating salary. You're still hard capping yourself at the second apron. You've just agreed to a big contract with Sam Merrill. So you're consistently making this harder on yourself to getting LeBron, which then keeps making me wonder, where does he go on any of these teams? Which then still goes to if I'm him, yeah, like Miami could definitely appeal. There aren't a lot of great options. I still go back to Philadelphia, but he doesn't even want to be there. He doesn't want to go to Philadelphia. I have no idea. But I look at this list and there is no perfect situation on any of these 8 teams. And then, of course, if you're listening to this, you're probably like, that's the Knicks. That's why they make sense. That's why you've got it. And I get it. But also the Knicks, they're doing fine on their own without LeBron James. If this were a different financial situation, if we're talking about LeBron James leaves so much money on the table that he wants to sign and build his legacy, and he wants to come to New York, and he doesn't get to 6 like Jordan, but he gets to 5. And you know what? That Knicks championship, maybe that alone, based on sentimentality, feels like it's worth more than 1. But we're not at that point because he opted in. So now the Knicks would have to trade all this salary. And it's not a death knell, but it's a little perplexing based on the packages that are there. And some might say it's not perplexing at all, Jeremy. It's Karl Anthony Towns. Or it's not perplexing at all, Jeremy. It's OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. It's not perplexing at all, Jeremy. It's Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Mitchell Robinson. Like all these things. Because Andrew, I don't know if you know this, but I merely present the options and I get yelled at anyway for bringing them up. And it's fine.
Wow.
Let me be the person that gets yelled at. I'm merely presenting how it has to get done. It's just a how. That's how. And I don't necessarily love any of those options if I'm the Knicks, despite it being LeBron James, and still understanding, damn, that's LeBron James. It's pretty cool.
2 things. 1, Robert, stop yelling at Jeremy.
Oh, I'm not even looking, and I knew it, of course.
No, he's not in the chat. I'm just, in general, he yells at you anytime you mentioned what's it called? LeBron James. Anybody trading Mitchell Robinson or for Mitchell Robinson. I don't even think LeBron James would fill his appetite or quench his appetite. He
Definitely not.
wants Mitchell Robinson running point guard for the New York Knicks next season. So, Robert, please stop yelling at Jeremy. And second of all, shout out to the fine folks over at Fanatics Sportsbook. Earn up to 10% back on your bets, win or lose. Use fan cash on team gear on fanatics.com, like the championship trophy, the replica trophy that's behind Jeremy, or the Knicks hat that I'm wearing right now that I've worn all throughout our partnership with Fanatics Sportsbook. Or you can use it on bonus bets like a Milwaukee Bucks Eastern Conference future, or if you think the Knicks could get LeBron, get them while they're at plus money now at plus 300. Use profit boosts in the Fanatics Sportsbook app as well. Okay, Jeremy. I am going to jump down because there are some super chats and some questions. I promise, and I put this call out there to anybody watching, ask something that doesn't have to do with LeBron James, please. So this whole hour and whatever show isn't just about LeBron James. Continue with your program, Jeremy, with our first question, of course, coming from Mr. Kevin Danishevsky.
Of course. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Jer. Thank you for the super chat contribution, Kevin. I don't think the Knicks should get LeBron, but it's tricky because I'd be terrified of Cleveland getting LeBron, anything the Knicks can do to prevent that. First of all, I respectfully disagree with Andrew. Listen, folks, if you have any interest in contributing financially, I've got a lot of plans this summer. I will not, I'm not shameless, or I guess I am shameless here. I will gladly talk about LeBron. If you want to pay me to talk about LeBron, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to whore myself out in the most obnoxious way possible. That's fine. I will do it. I promise you.
Then ignore everything I just said. Yeah. Let's up the ante too. Whoever wants to send a paragraph's worth of your questions and your whole take about LeBron James, please do with the super chat button in the corner. Thank you for the contributions, by the way.
Yes.
Continue.
Greatly appreciate it. And we'll do it as long as we need to.
Continue, Jer.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev. So the Knicks can't stop Cleveland from getting LeBron unless they get LeBron themselves, and you don't necessarily want to get another player just so another team doesn't get them. But like I said, Cleveland can prevent itself from getting LeBron merely by being hard capped at the second apron because they're aggregating salaries. I would imagine that there was a window where they could have done that, and then they signed Sam Merrill. And I would gather, just to guess, that then the Cavs probably didn't, say, hey, Sam Merrill, here's a fat contract. And then they picked up the phone and LA is like, oh, would you like LeBron? And they're like, sorry, we just paid Sam Merrill, so can't do that. I would imagine that if they had these conversations, they've already happened, and that Cleveland probably would have said, you know what? We're good. We understand it, but we're good. We want to continue in this direction. We want to try to have a team that is sustainable. We want to go above the second apron. We can't do that if we get LeBron James. We're fine. Thank you very much. Hey, Sam, how would you like to make a lot of money? That's how I see it. So I think the Cavs kind of prevented themselves from doing it. It's nothing the Knicks necessarily can do to avoid Cleveland from getting them. They've kind of controlled their own destiny, and I think that's probably it. So I hope that helps you feel better, Kevin. Shout out to Cleveland for the moves they made, and shout out to you for the super chat contribution. So thank you. At Jay Mercandetti, thank you for the contribution. Can we really justify Josh Hart making $20 million per year on a team bumping up against second apron where he is best suited to coming off the bench? Absolutely. You absolutely can. And a big reason is there are plenty of teams that have players making well over that coming off the bench. And I think that's fine. I mean, again, the issue isn't necessarily Josh Hart making money. If you traded Josh Hart, what are you really doing here? Okay, so you're dumping his salary, and then you want to sign someone with a non-taxpayer middle-level exception. You can do that, and yet you still have to make other math work, and you have to hit the minimum roster requirement, which means you have to pick up, or rather you have to decline Huck Porty's money, which the Knicks already accepted that. They picked it up. So that's a challenge. So now you've got to send more money out, and you're doing what? You're trading Josh Hart just to get another option and make yourself cheaper and have less salary on the books so you can maybe be a better team than you are with Josh Hart, but there's no guarantee. Like, What other free agent are you getting, or what player are you trading into the non-taxpayer mid-level exception? And what other players, like I said, are you using to trim the money to get you hard caps at the first apron? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And if you feel like Josh Hart himself doesn't have as much value, then okay. Do you feel like other teams feel like, oh, Josh Hart, great, we're super excited? No, I just don't quite understand it. And this is not at you, Jay. This is just generally. I feel like the love for Josh Hart this offseason has really run out for a lot of fans. I've just been very surprised to see it, to be quite honest with you. I understand that he's not going to be the guy to propel the Knicks from a scoring perspective. He's not this empty rebounder who just does cardio. Like, there's more to his game than that. We have seen it. We saw firsthand how he transformed the Knicks. Not last season. I mean, he did a great job last season, but the season before that, when he was acquired or I guess the season before that, he was acquired and led the Knicks, was one of the best players, had a hot shooting. It seems like he does come in. He'll hit that grenade at the end of the shot clock above the break to put the Knicks ahead. He gives you a tremendous amount of effort, great connector, can play well in transition. There's a lot there. I understand the price tag. It's not something that really concerns me, because even if Josh Hart were making $17 million, it's not the difference between the Knicks having having the non-taxpayer mid-level exception or not. They're still stuck with the taxpayer mid-level. They just have a little bit more space underneath the apron, and they're not so close that they're screwed. So I'm fine with his salary there, because it's not really crippling them. It's not like an option is off the table because Josh Hart is on this team. So it just doesn't bother me in the same way. And if you have him coming off the bench, it's fine. Play him against bench players, and he's probably going to do a really good job. You can still play. You don't have to have a hockey style rotation either. You can still have him play against starters. You can find the right minutes. If there's also a world where the Knicks don't have Mitchell Robinson for whatever reason, because again, Mitchell Robinson, Mikal Bridges, both guys who are up for extensions, have not signed those yet. If there's a world where Josh Hart is the worst shooter on your team from a regular season or even playoff standpoint, and I understand Poris' presence even if you trade Mitchell Robinson. But if you're looking at this and like, yeah, for regular minutes, if Poris is getting maybe like 12 minutes a game, and you've got Hart playing times where Poris not on the floor, and if he's your worst shooter at that point, you're doing okay, because it probably means you've added more shooting around him. So I don't have the same concerns that you may have, Jay, or that others have. And I just think that there's a little bit of an underappreciation going on. In the right role, we know what he can do, and I think that is still worth $20 million. And I get it if price tags haven't caught up, but every year players make more money because the salary cap goes up, and every year salaries seem more and more inflated. Like, we can talk about Josh Hart making $20 million coming off the bench and be concerned about it, but then where's the love for Jalen Brunson making $35 million when we all know that he should be earning a full 30% max contract? You save some places, you spend in others. It balances out in the end. And I'm fine with Josh Hart earning that amount and coming off the bench. In fact, I'd advocate for it. But Jay, I appreciate the question and the contribution as well. So thank you very much. Jeremy Franco, thank you for the super chat, Jeremy. Jeremy's saying, Jeremy, a lot of Jeremys here. Love it. If LeBron truly wanted the Knicks and we were interested, do you think it's more likely it would be 1, Cat, or 2, OG and Mitch? That's so tough. I mean, I would imagine that it's really tough. And I understand for some, they might swing one way or the other. The Mitch portion, again, I know that people are going to be upset at this. It's easier to find a rim protecting big who's going to be playing when Karl-Anthony Towns isn't than it is to find OG Anunoby. I think we can agree there. With Cat, though, the thing is, if you had LeBron, you're basically slotting him into the Julius Randle offensive role. So then are you moving? What other pieces are you moving? Are you looking for a 5 who can space the floor a little bit, but then you want a 5 who can space the floor and also defend the rim, but also isn't so old? I mean, yeah, like if I went out and if I'm the Knicks and I moved Cat for LeBron, first of all, given the ages, I would want something. I feel like Cat's I'm going to say this, the better player because he is younger by a decade. So if I'm moving Cat for LeBron, and I recognize that this could be 1 year of LeBron versus the other team getting 7, 8, however many years of Cat, I'm going to want something else. I'm going to want more than that. So I guess I'd lean with one, but then I would also, one being Cat, but then I would want something else in return that can net me a player that can give me optionality at the 5 and space the floor a little bit more. So me personally, I'd want that, but then LeBron retires in a year and the Knicks traded star power for retired star power. So that's a tricky situation as well. It's why for both of these options, I get the pros and I get the cons, and I think the cons outweigh the pros, even if it's LeBron James for both of those. Timeline wise, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'll go with one with Karl-Anthony Towns reluctantly, Jeremy, but I appreciate the thoughts and the contributions. So thank you very much. Yes, sir.
To be clear, Jeremy Cohen, the guy on the screen,
that's me.
You're saying that you would want something more than just LeBron back in a Cat trade, right?
I would. I absolutely would, because yes.
Clearly you're talking you want Bronny too.
That is the piece I was thinking.
Okay.
Bronny at the 5.
That's the clarification. So
yes.
Bron and Bronny, and then the future second round rights to Bryce, and then it's an even deal. Okay.
Absolutely. Let's just load up on as many members of the James family as we possibly can. I totally agree.
Can I take people behind the scenes for a second? So every now and then I like to inject humor into our very serious sports conversations. I do this from time to time on multiple different Knicks Film School shows, especially juxtaposed against Mr. Macri, who I just wouldn't know what fun is if it hit him in the face. So to this next super chat from Asai, ask Andrew to lose the attitude. So there's a bit on the Levitard show that when someone asks a question that clearly contradicts or doesn't understand a clear bit that they're doing on the show, they'll respond with a liner of Dan Levitard's dad that says, "You don't get the show." So Asai, thank you for the contribution. You don't get this show. Continue with your program, Jeremy.
Andrew, you sure? I'll say it facetiously. You got to lose the attitude, buddy.
I got to lose the attitude. You're right.
Look,
I'm way too serious on here. I take things way too seriously.
And that's the problem. You got to
lighten up,
dial it down. Yeah, we're at 11. Let's dial it down.
You got it. My bad.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's all good. We'll just be better. Jared Barton, thank you. The super chat contribution. What are the odds a move made this week that brings in a starter? Well, if you're bringing in a starter, I would presume you are moving a starter. That's my general thought. Andrew, can I get you back up here for a second? Because I want to ruminate on something, and I'd like to not be the only person. And you tell me where I've gone off the deep end. The fun thing about this is it's kind of a win-win, right? If it comes true, nice. That's great. If I'm throwing it at the wall and it doesn't stick, we're just... it's sports radio, that's what we're doing. So something that kind of surprised me, this has nothing to do with the Knicks, is we saw the Houston Rockets, where they got Kevin Durant, makes sense. They got Fred VanVleet, cheaper contract. We know that there's interest in getting a player like Dorian Finney-Smith. They can sign him as long as, really they've full access to the mid-level except or the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, so they could just sign him outright. But a thought kind of occurred to me, which was there was a report by Kelly Iko of The Athletic a couple days ago. It said Cam Whitmore wants more playing time. That's fine, makes sense. It's a crowded rotation. And then today as well, Fred Katz tweeted about how the Rockets and Jock Landau agreed to move back Landau's salary to July 7th, the decision of the $8 million. And, there are a couple things that could be done, but obviously after July 6th, that's when the Kevin Durant trade is likely to be finalized. It hasn't yet because you want more pieces there. And if we're on the topic of a starter with the Knicks, I keep wondering, all right, well, if I'm the Rockets, what am I doing here? What do I want? And I keep going back to, there are 3 extension eligible players for them coming up, not for this upcoming season, that can be extended for the following season, for the 2026-27 season. Number 1, Kevin Durant. Makes total sense. That's going to happen. They will bring him back. And who knows, he might even take a discount. Number 2, Tari Eason. Tari Eason's played great for them. They clearly like Tari Eason. He's a good role player, glue guy that they need. He'd be coming off the bench. And number 3 is a player that I'm very curious about the fit, and it's Jabari Smith Jr. And I don't know, man. I have questions about Houston and Jabari Smith Jr. from a contract extension standpoint. Not because they can't afford it. They can. But if I'm Houston, I really want wings, and I want to be able to clear up some of I need to consolidate a little bit here. There's a lot of money that's going to be on the books. The fit is there. Durant in, Green and Brooks out really helps them from an efficiency standpoint. They were a very inefficient team last year. So that certainly helps, but Finney Smith would help as well. But I'm just wondering, if you had Landau's contract pushed back, if you have Whitmore, who wants more playing time elsewhere, if you have Jabari Smith Jr., who's not necessarily going to be on the team, and I'm speculating when I say that, full stop, but the thoughts of, do they really want to extend him with the fit with Durant and all of that? Maybe they do, but I'd be surprised, because then on top of that, you have to pay Amen Thompson the year later. So you get Van Vliet's money off the books, but at the same time, you got to add more for Thompson. There's a lot of money that's flying around. And it doesn't mean that they don't want to spend or can't spend. But maybe they're just looking to consolidate. And that's where I was wondering, okay, well, could the Knicks come into play here at all? And if so, what would it be? And the first mindset might be, well, if they're looking for a wing and the Knicks have a player to send out, then there's the Mikal Bridges of it all. And then that could make sense. Sure, but when have the Knicks ever done something like that? When have they really ever taken quality and broken it up into quantity? That's not something they typically do. They try to package up. And then I keep going back to this, and I understand people are going to say, no, Jeremy, this other team is going to use whatever cap space they have and try to renegotiate and extend for this player. They're very focused on bringing them back. And I'm just going to keep saying it. I keep having my eyes peeled on Jaren Jackson Jr. You know me. You know I've been saying this to you for a long time offline. I get it if it doesn't happen because Memphis stays. I also know if I'm Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm looking at Memphis and saying, okay, you can pay me a bit more, but you're not paying me a max contract because you can't get there, because now you've brought in more money and you've made our team younger and also worse with Desmond Bane leaving. What are you doing with Ja? Do I want to be here long-term? The West is a bloodbath. Do I want to go to the East? Do I want to go to a team like the Knicks? Do I want to slot in next to Karl Anthony Towns, the team where my dad was serving as, in their staff, like that sort of thing? And then you think about, okay, is there a deal these 3 teams could do where you have Bridges going perfectly to Houston? I think that's a great fit for them, truly. And they could get him and still sign Dorian Finney-Smith with the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. Now they've got multiple wings. Now they've got lots of options, and they can still afford to bring players back the following year. Maybe they've got to make another choice, but they can actually have their cake and eat it too this year, and then figure out how they do other things the following year. If you're Memphis, okay, you get, of course, a pick or 2 from Houston. You get the pick swaps later that the Knicks have in 2030, 2032, down the line. That's where you get Jaren Jackson Jr. to potentially come to New York. And then if you're Memphis, doesn't Jabari Smith seem like a very similar replica? Not the same, of course. He's not going to do the same defensively as Jackson would, but from an offensive standpoint, you're going to get a lot of value out of him. He's on a rookie contract. You can add to it. You can fit your scheme nicely. You can take Whitmore and still give him time to play, or you can send him to another team if you really needed to. You can broaden this into a 4-team deal because the Suns haven't finalized this with Houston. And then suddenly you've got this 4-team, framework, which is really 2 trades being combined into one. So the reason I mention that is if Jared is saying, which he is there a way to bring in a starter? Getting a starter for another starter and using what you have to package up and saying to Houston, hey, you're the one who's actually consolidating and getting good talent. You're basically doing the Mikal Bridges trade minus 1 year, and you're giving up a good player overall, but still not as talented as one would have hoped based on his time over the 3 years in Jabari Smith Jr., but still young, so room to grow. You'd also, I think, trade out Nate Williams for salary because then you're not hard capped at the first apron, which doesn't necessarily matter if you're getting Dorian Finney-Smith in the door as well. And if you're Memphis, you're walking away with a whole lot of young players and picks. And you're talking the Suns pick that the Rockets own for next year. The 2027 Suns pick that they own, because the Grizzlies already have swap rights on the Suns pick. And suddenly the Grizzlies control a lot of Phoenix's future. You're getting the Knicks picks swap rights way back or way forward. That's pretty good. So now you have control over the Suns in the present and immediate future. And you've got control over the Knicks when they're going to be a worse team. So that's the starter portion for me. And then, of course, the question is, if you miraculously pull that off, if you're the Knicks, right, what do you do after that? Because you've got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. That's a lot of minutes of guys at the 5. That's where the theory then comes into, do you move Mitch because you've gotten Jackson and maybe you play Huck Porty more. Maybe you sign Yabusele with the taxpayer mid-level, but he's probably going to make too much. So maybe you go after Horford, and maybe you're like, okay, we can move pieces around and find some sort of glue piece that works. So where are you moving Mitch in this case? I mean, I look at the Charlotte Hornets as an option right now. They have one center, Diabate, on their team. And they are actually looking, it seems like, to my perspective, to be at least a play-in team in a very weak Eastern Conference. It seems like they might want to take that next step. And who better to be a great rim protector for a Charlotte Hornets team than a player like Mitchell Robinson? Question, of course, is who do the Knicks get back? Ideally, if it's a 3-team deal with that sense, it's someone who can give them the opportunity to have a backcourt player just to balance out. I mean, of course, a DiVincenzo type would be great, but how are you getting Minnesota to do all that? You'd want something of value from Charlotte. Are you sending it to Minnesota? Are you going to another team that has a 2-3 that can play there? What are you doing? I understand everything I've thrown at you is extremely convoluted, and it basically is one piece changing everything kinetically. You've got it written down. You're great at what you do. But do you see the world that I'm trying to envision here, where it's basically giving each team what they want, or trying to at the very least, and then the kinetic energy that comes from it and the moves after that.
So to recap the galaxy brain that you went to, so Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. would end up in Nick. Mikal Bridges would end up in Houston. Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Picks, and Jake Landale would probably
Landale and Nate Williams.
And Nate Williams would end up in Memphis. A combination of stuff would end up in Memphis, but Picks and Jabari Smith Jr. and Cam Whitmore really being the headliners there.
And just very quickly, assuming Jaren Jackson isn't comfortable staying in Memphis as well, to be clear. That is a big factor here as well.
Absolutely. So, again, I just, knowing what Zach Kleinman, who's the Bobo, the president of basketball operations in Memphis, has said publicly, and some things that he's also hinted at behind the scenes. He believes Jaren Jackson Jr. is a Supermax player, should get the most money possible. I recognize, because he didn't make All-NBA this year, he can't make the Supermax, right?
He did not win Defensive Player of the Year award, and that meant that he would not be Supermax eligible.
Got it. So the fact that contract is no longer part of the reality could influence Jaren Jackson Jr.'s decision, especially after the Des Bane trade. I just am going off of what Kleinman has said, which is the only reason why I will just believe that this will happen when it happens. I agree, especially when it's coming from your brain, that if it can, a world where it can happen is the one that you usually present. Like, of course, the framework of it makes sense. And then you're rerouting Mitch potentially to Charlotte. Where I actually land on, so your starting 5 then becomes Cat, Jaren Jackson Jr., Anunoby, Brunson, and Josh Hart.
I would move Hart to the bench. Again, this is where the Mitch portion of it would be. I'd be looking for someone to be a starting caliber two guard. That's the important factor. And the Hornets, mind you, they've got a couple good picks coming up. Maybe what the Knicks do if they haven't in this theoretical, if they have not moved the Wizards pick, which is the 2 seconds, maybe they trade Mitch in the 2 seconds, and then the Hornets move one of their better first round picks, like the Mavericks first, or any of their first that they have that are better in quality that we know are actually going to be first, to another team, like in this case, the Timberwolves, to move them out. Because the Timberwolves, as things stand right now, would not be able to retain Nickeil Alexander-Walker and stay below the second apron, which is why there's the theory of, and as I've even said, there are other players out there that are not named Dante DiVincenzo. But if you're able to do that, and you're saying, hey, Minnesota, what if you have two options? Option number one, or behind door number one, you keep Dante DiVincenzo and you sign and trade Nickeil Alexander-Walker, whether it's to a team with cap space or a team in the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. You get some sort of traded player exception, but you're hard capped at the second apron, and maybe you get a second round pick, but you probably have to actually toss in a second round pick because you're creating the avenue to getting that a slot of money. But also they have the taxpayer mid-level. So why are they going to get a trade player exception when it would be the same cost as a taxpayer mid-level exception? The only difference being you can trade for a player using the TPE. You cannot trade for a player using the taxpayer mid-level exception. So that's the one thing. Or that's door number one. Door number two is you find a way to move DiVincenzo's money out fully. And the only thing you get back is future draft equity and the space to sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker to a contract that's like almost approaching $20 million. And you're just under the second apron, but you're not hard capped at the second apron. You're probably not going to go above it because you just were above it last season. But that is essentially how you're able to retain him. That's really which door do you pick? Because we know they love Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they also have TSJ, who's there, and they love what he has provided. Terrence Shannon Jr. Let's see, and we've got a report from Shams that just broke. What is it? Of course, this is when my phone decides to not recognize. Oh, well, you know what? You can that's the really fun thing. That's why I love getting these things out just in case, because you get to completely nuke them. I got to go through this, happened exactly with Mike Conley, and I'm just like, it's fine because it was a thought exercise. You can throw it completely out the window, and that's okay. Like, you can at least see the train of thought, and I'm fine with them doing that. But damn, does it suck when that happens?
So we haven't read the actual Shop's tweet. Houston Rockets forward Jabari Smith Jr. intends to sign a 5-year, $122 million rookie contract extension. Sources tell ESPN. So Jabari Smith Jr. will not be traded to. Wow.
It's fine because it's an exercise in futility, and I didn't mind it. And again,
I'm glad we did it.
It's not going to stick. We did it. It's fine, but it always happens, doesn't it? It's always the case.
So to recap, just a question. Now, what are the odds there's a move made this week that brings in a starter?
Maybe a little bit slimmer, but we'll see.
A little bit slimmer. Okay. I agree, by the way.
Another dance partner. And that's where the Landau, like, it's the Rockets could still move Landau and Whitmore and just get Finney Smith and give him more money and still have the taxpayer mid-level exception. So with all that, Jared, I appreciate the introduction for me to talk about something that is completely moot, which is fine. I now you get to see how the thought process goes. Yes, Andrew.
For those listening on the podcast feed, I'm glad you got to this point. I encourage you to go to the video and see Jeremy's face when we got the alert from Shams.
It is what it is.
Yes.
You know,
the reality of doing this live. Exactly.
Hey, that's showbiz, baby.
I'd rather it be live, to be honest, because you get the reaction. And because if this was pre-recorded, then I cut it out and we're fine. So
but then no one gets to see the ecstasy and agony of finding out
exactly
that tweet. So
there you go.
There it is. Manny Campos, not in favor of bringing in LeBron. However, trading Cat for him would make the Knicks a cap space team next year if no Bridges extension could be in play for Jaren Jackson Jr. Just spitballing. Thanks, KFS. Well, thank you, Manny. I do have to let you know it's not really. Yes, I mean, we're talking about, okay, you've moved LeBron for 1 year and then he retires. So you've traded Cat away. And now you don't have Bridges, which means you're basically letting him walk, which then carves up space. So the net transaction here is Cat and Bridges out for a year of LeBron, and then he's gone. So it's really Cat and Bridges for Jaren Jackson Jr. Not a trade-off I would like to see the Knicks make. So I would be against it, but I understand the spitballing. We're all for spitballing. Literally just happened with Jabari Smith Jr. So them's the breaks. But yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of that effective trade-off of Cat and Bridges out for Jaren Jackson Jr. and having had only 1 season of LeBron. But then Manny strikes again. Curious what Nets' motivation was not giving Sharp a qualifying offer. I'd love to have him for the taxpayer mid-level exception, but think his market would be above that. Thoughts? It could absolutely be above that. I could see another team signing him with the part of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. Absolutely. I was a little surprised at that too. They made 5 first-round picks. I don't think all of them will come over this year, but they only have so many players. I mean, the other thing too is by not giving him a qualifying offer, if there's a player they wanted to sign, then they renounce his ability or they renounce everything that's there, which works out for them. And then that creates more cap space. So it could just be that they don't have any desire to bring him back and want to use that money for cap space instead. So I guess that's probably why. But yeah, you could go to a team with around the taxpayer mid-level. There's a lot of big men out there, good demand, and not a lot of supply. And then I believe we've got one more from Manny. Thank you. Knicks signed Bridges to a team-friendly deal that helps keep the core together long-term. What do the contract years and dollars look like in that case? You could make an argument, Manny, that the extension the Knicks could give Mikal Bridges is team-friendly. I understand why some might feel that $35 million is too rich for a spot-up shooter, but I can guarantee you Mikal Bridges can do more than that. But if he were to make it more incentive-focused, if he were to get a little bit lower to carve out space, then that would be great too. That would work nicely. So if he's committed to spending or to giving up some money for a salary, then were the Knicks to be able to get further under the second apron, that would be a great thing for him. I would certainly appreciate that, and I think fans would too. Jay Mercandetti. If we need a guard with size who can run the offense to play alongside Deuce, isn't Rokas worth a shot given how cheap he'd be? I mean, the real question is, do we trust Rokas Jokubaitis to be an NBA-ready player today? I wouldn't necessarily trust him over Tyler Kolek, perhaps. It's tough to come overseas and excel right away, even if you're 25, 26 years old. I feel like the moment for Rokas had passed. Of course, the Knicks also have Hugo Besson. I don't believe he would be a ready now option for them either. But yeah, I don't think he would be an option for the Knicks from a win now standpoint. Would rather see them sign a player for the taxpayer mid-level exception at the guard spot. But above all, would really rather see Tyler Kolek do what he can do. But I appreciate the question. Jason Meredith, Knicks and Cavs are the only teams that make sense for LeBron. I would do Cat, not OG and Mitch. Knicks have a huge opportunity with Tatum and Hallie out. Yeah, I get it. I understand it. Again, if LeBron retires, you're putting a lot of your eggs in the 1-year basket, but that's the move. It's just what happens after that. That's pretty disappointing. Pretty tough. Cavs can trade for LeBron. It's tough. This is what Jason's saying, but they can trade Hunter in 2032 first to the Nets, get below the second apron, then they can aggregate salaries. Yes, they can, but then the question is who exactly or what exactly are they doing to do that? It means that they're definitely moving Allen. And let's look at the Cavs sheet, because it have to be a sign and trade for Merrill, and maybe it is, but that would be a tough thing to do. I don't know if they're going back on their word, or if I don't think it's been inked. Alonzo Ball can't be traded yet, but they could dump his salary too. But then that's another thing. They can't aggregate. They could move Strus. It's, to Jason's point, it's really tough. I don't want to say it's fully impossible, but it's really difficult for them to do. Even if we were talking about moving Garland now. I mean, that's really where it comes down to, where they'd have to pretty much move Garland and maybe Dean Wade. That gets them there. It's a nice piece, but then Garland to the Lakers. If you're the Lakers, you're probably just saying we'll take back the best talent available, but I don't love the fit then with Garland and Luka. So yeah, Jason's right. It's not completely impossible, but the avenue has narrowed substantially because of the Merrill trade. From Juanon, thank you for the super chat. Knicks fans on the bullshit should Google Isaiah Thomas's stint here. Speaking of more impressive body of work, his 2000s run here or his current secret stint with the Suns. Thanks. Hashtag fire LeBron. I appreciate Juanon. Moving on from Tibbs with the bit of firing someone. Yeah, the Suns have been operating out of desperation, it feels like, every single time. And they're just compounding that desperation. It has not been a great track record. I don't understand getting a big man and then trading the 29th pick for Mark Williams and then picking up Nick Richards. That I understand, but all of those moves together. And then I understand with Micic, but at the same time, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You had to send the money out. I get it. Just rough experience for them. So I understand exactly what Juanon's saying with Isaiah Thomas and LeBron coming here and how that would feel. It's tough. El Coriano 11. How about Oubre at the taxpayer mid-level exception? Well, Oubre exercised his player option today, so that is impossible. But I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate contributions. But unfortunately, it's not a viable option because his player option is more than that. And also, it's just, he can't do it. Can't be traded. He's a Sixer. Drew P. Hey, Drew. No similar available salary is half as good as Mitchell Robinson. I mean, depends on how you're allocating your resources. If you're keeping Mitchell Robinson, it's hopefully because you are looking to keep him in the fold consistently, but then you're paying $18 million for a player who's ranked in the 0th percentile in usage. And I can understand the defense is great. Absolutely it is. Okay. And also, what happens if he gets hurt? I'd be fine with Mitch staying here. It's then the extension portion, which is what I would expect. And then the question of how are you fitting him into the fold? But the idea that there's no similar available salary that's half as good as Mitchell Robinson, I get it that there aren't a ton of good salaries that we as a unit might be saying are not available. But if there are players available on the market that make around what's there, an example, do I think that the Lakers are necessarily going to move Austin Reeves? I don't. He decided he didn't want to take the extension. It means he's going to likely decline his player option and hit unrestricted free agency next summer. Does that mean I want him on the Knicks? Not necessarily, but I would take Austin Reeves as a player over Mitchell Robinson. But then again, I understand what Mitch has done in the playoffs, and I understand if you pick and roll Austin Reeves quite a bit, that's a struggle. But I think surveying based on the how you can find pick and roll players on the offensive side and the value Mitch provides and where rim runners typically lie in the association, how they're valued, I think most would say that what Austin Reeves brings you is better than what Mitchell Robinson brings you. Fully recognizing that what Mitchell Robinson brings you is very talented defensive work. I get that. And we can agree to disagree, Drew, on how important the value of not Mitch, but like that archetype and then how you're using him, especially if you want to use Cat at the 5. I mean, if you get someone like Huck Porty to step in and gives you 75%, theoretically 75%, and I'm just throwing that number out there, of what Mitchell Robinson brings for a cost that is 1/6 of it, it's just an opportunity cost. That's purely what it is. If you can get similar value with a player making a lot less and use Mitch to get someone that helps you in a different area, I get the logic behind it. And I'd hope you do too, understanding that Mitch is still a good player. And I'm not saying, like I was saying before with the scenario with the Hornets, which could still happen. It's like, of course, I'm going to get boomed by Shams next minute, which is that the Hornets get Walker Kessler or something. But in that moment, like, you could still find a way to say, okay, you can get value for Mitch out the door. I don't want to just give him away. I want actual tangible value for him to come back. As I've said, I want a player who can do something in the backcourt if that's what you're moving Mitch for, because you're confident that you can get someone in the front court. So I hear you. I understand the value of Mitch. I also respectfully disagree, but I appreciate your input. And Drew saying, does a stretch 5 make Brunson worse? Feels like it. I don't know why a stretch 5 necessarily makes Brunson worse. If anything, it gives you optionality, right? Like, it gives you the opportunity to say, great, what do we know that the Knicks do when Mitchell Robinson sets a pick? He rolls. What do we know when the Knicks have a set offense? He goes straight to the dunker spot. Maybe, like, what else is he doing? He's not hitting mid-range shots. So if we're saying, does a stretch 5 make Brunson worse? No, it's not that he's worse because of it. It's perhaps that the insulation that the Knicks have is not being effectively brought in-house, or that perhaps the coach wasn't maximizing to the best abilities of what the Knicks can do by having Brunson and Cat together. But I don't think giving Brunson arguably the best shooting big man of all time makes him worse. I think if that's the case, then the Knicks have gone awry in some way. So I don't think that he makes Brunson worse. But I get it if you feel like they can't play together. Justin Schwender, from my understanding, Knicks can sign a full taxpayer mid-level exception player, 2 league minimums, one being Shamet, and wait to sign Diawara 2 weeks into the season, similar to what they did with Huck Porty. Thoughts? I think you're confusing something. So with Huck Porty, he signed a 2-way contract and then was ineligible to sign a rookie exception. Teams can wait until July 31st to sign a player to the rookie exception. So the Knicks could sign Diawara to the rookie exception. The deadline would be July 31st, not 2 weeks into the season. But they could still sign a full taxpayer mid-level exception player and 2 league minimums, with one of them being Shamet, and then bring in Diawara on the rookie exception. That is something that financially they should be able to do. Last I checked, when I crunched the numbers. But there is a difference, to be clear, of what the Knicks would be doing here with Diawara and what they did with Huck Porty. Huck Porty being 2-way and then couldn't sign the rookie exception. Diawara, who could outright sign the rookie exception, but the question being, is he even coming over this year? Is he a draft and stash? Are the Knicks ever going to bring him over? Maybe they do, but that's the prevailing thought there. And that's that. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a 5-star review whenever you are listening to this episode. I got to tell you, I appreciate you being along for the ride. This goes up into the rafters of the Mike Conley rumination, and then me just getting beaten over the head by a report. But hey, you miss every shot you don't take, I suppose. I feel like that was not the quote. I feel like I just botched it, and maybe that's just my hungry stomach ruining it. What is it?
It's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you were on it. Yeah,
I was on it. That's right. I was second guessing myself. That's fair. But congratulations, a big congratulations to Jabari Smith Jr. on his incredibly lucrative contract. I'm still very curious as to what that fit looks like. I wonder wholeheartedly. I would imagine if you're the Rockets, maybe you just go out and sign Dorian Finney-Smith and You call it an offseason, you're able to make it go. But if you're losing him, what does that mean for LeBron? Probably. Andrew, what do you say? If we're looking at odds, what are the odds that you have LeBron staying versus going? Is he a Laker next year?
Yes, but
Yes.
I would think you're still positive, like plus odds on whatever. Like the Lakers would be plus 200. I think the Cavs thing is real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, throw the Knicks in there. Golden State, I'm just the
Sure.
Draymond connection with Clutch, and then his what better twilight than going out playing next to Steph Curry, and we finally get the Lakers and Warriors on every national televised game all season, their first year on NBC.
Could do that.
And then there's a Miami element to it. The options aren't everywhere, but they do exist, and I would still lean toward he ends up just going back to the Lakers and living in LA and getting to go to all of Bryce's games. And like there's a familial aspect there. And also, Mr. I want to go play for a good team. They did just trade for Luka Doncic and will be able to field a team that was the 3rd seed in the West last year. But this was a fun exercise. I would still say it's the Lakers, but it wouldn't shock me because it's LeBron James if he ends up on another team. To your point, out east as well.
The one thing that will bother me, if the Knicks don't get LeBron, there will be 2 schools of thought. Number one, I can't believe the Knicks didn't get LeBron. Like, how could they not get LeBron? He's LeBron James. How could they not do it? Or number 2, LeBron doesn't have the Knicks on his teams I want to be traded to. And then the uproar is, can you believe that the way the Knicks are run, LeBron James didn't even want to be there? Like, of course he didn't want to be there. They don't have a head coach. They don't know how to run what they're doing. It's going to be chaos no matter what. And I can only control what I can control, Andrew.
Have the Knicks had a clutch client since Nerlens Noel?
Cam Reddish?
That's what I should have said. Have they had a clutch client since Cam Reddish, who was so upset that he burned everything on the way out?
You're the one with the better memory when it comes to those things than I am. So if you are...
So if I'm blanking on it,
but probably no.
The reason I'm going to you is because you know the agency is better than I do.
Jericho Sims was with Clutch and then switched agents.
You'd know better than I do if Jericho Sims was a Clutch client.
I believe he left, but then he was no longer a Clutch client. And then Rich Paul and Leon Rose broke bread, and the animosity, subsided a bit. So, maybe it happens. Maybe there's a world where that's the case. Colin Sexton, not a New York Knick, so it didn't happen. That's a Clutch client.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray, didn't go. De'Aaron Fox, makes sense why he wouldn't. Not a lot of options.
So the reason I went to that is because to fully wrap this up, we haven't mentioned the feud between Leon Rose and Rich Paul, which it was reportedly squashed.
Mm-hmm.
And I will fully believe said feud is squashed when a Clutch client plays for the New York Knicks, specifically one of this caliber. Like that would actually show me, oh, they're good. They're good now. Okay, got it. Until then, I will believe a Clutch client plays for the Knicks when it actually happens. Similar to my philosophy of, I don't think like the Jaren Jackson Jr. framework absolutely makes sense. I'd be all for a Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. I will believe Zach Kleiman trades him when he trades him. So,
and we're on the same page there,
right?
Just to be absolutely clear, I understand the hurdles and how much he is prioritized in Memphis. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's an opening,
pounce. Believe I've been on this too. That's the guy. We on our town hall this week. We went around and I believe it was asked if there's a way to get Jaren Jackson Jr. next to Cat. Can you? And I was like, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like absolutely. I forget what the fake trade John asked was, but it was like Mikal Bridges and someone else for KCP and Jaren Jackson Jr. And I was like, yes.
You'd
absolutely.
have to.
I forget who the other player was.
Yeah.
You would know just by hearing the numbers.
You'd also have to wait 2 months after KCP was acquired, which I believe would be August 15th, for the trade to occur. I mean, the Knicks have made trades at odd times, right? The Bridges trade was in the coterie of the night. And then so is the cat trade in September. So it's not like let's just say whatever happens in July, it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way before training camp.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I agree. Good show, Jeremy.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Andrew. You as well. Appreciate all your help.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We should announce we will be live tomorrow on YouTube channel at 5 p.m. Eastern for a full reaction to whatever the heck the Knicks do at the deadline in free agency this year. I would advise them, if they could, for free agency this year, hire a coach. But I'm being told that their process is fine and that it's okay if they don't have a coach at the moment. So hopefully that doesn't hinder them from any moves that they'd like to make.
I'll say one more thing. And I understand. I don't think any coach is going to say, hey, because I was not involved in you signing a player with the taxpayer mid-level exception, I'm out. Or, hey, you made a big trade that I think actually made you a better team. I don't want to be here. I'm not the first person to talk about this, to be clear. But the interest in Jason Kidd's assistance in Dallas and the brain drain that could come from that, I don't understand it, man. I don't get, if I'm Dallas, I've got two paths here. Number one, I just keep his assistants and I bring back Jason Kidd. Easy enough. Put your money where your mouth is. Or number two, I don't retain Jason Kidd's assistants. And then I run the risk of Jason Kidd saying, why am I assembling an entirely new staff in a place where you just made this significant trade and all the people I trust are gone? I don't want that. Why would I do that? Why would I stay here? I don't want to be here. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. It's such a bizarre thing to me that they would go about it this way. But the Mavericks don't necessarily operate like the most well-run organization. So
not exactly dealing with rational actors there, Jeremy. Look, I joke mostly because all jokes at the Knicks' expense have been just fun to put out there. I maintain I'm fine with them waiting. I do find it somewhat odd that we're like, again, the free agency live stream is tomorrow and there's no coach, no staff. We've heard second round of interviews for Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins, and that's it. And Don Staley interest that happened. So like, I'm just okay. Yep. I have to just play the result then. That hopefully they nail the coaching hire and their top 7. That I think honestly should inform the answer to the question that was asked. Percentage chance that they'll trade for a starter, and I don't think that they'll make that type of move for a starter without a coach, which may actually lead to your August 15th thing. That's a move that they can make in the future after they've already hired their coach and he gets in and is like, all right, wait a couple months and then go get Jaren Jackson Jr.
Sure, but also cap space goes quick. Spending is gone. A lot of free agents, like, all right, it's cap space opens up. Again, Jackson Jr., they say, hey, we'd love to sign you. And he says, I'm good. Are the Grizzlies going to then not use that cap space until August 15th? There's no one else. There's no one's going to be on the market. August is a dead time. Front office is shut down and they're out. I mean, those moves happen in September because they've gotten a month of vacation because they don't get to vacation any other time.
Yeah. I'm more just saying that this is an indication that the team is the team. And outside of some margin moves at the end, Yabusele, someone for the TMLE, the team is the team. And hopefully we're doing multiple live streams this week. One that is reacting to them hiring a new head coach.
Just not while I CF1 and not while I'm on a plane.
So I'm just going to add to this. Not on the 4th of freaking July. Some of us have family. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll just co-sign all of that.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely
not on the 4th of July.
Please.
And
please,
not July 9th. Jeremy knows why.
I do know why.
Yes.
I can understand why.
In fact, it's not even private. That's my anniversary. I would very much like to not have to interrupt that because something they could have done 3 weeks ago. It's like, oh, Taylor Jenkins, you're C.R.E.A., come on in. Sure, be our coach. But no, you took three rounds of interviews to hire Taylor Jenkins.
I have to go to a wedding on the 4th, and I can't live stream from it.
So
I can't do it.
New York Knicks, you don't care about us, but if you could accidentally do something convenient for us during the live stream tomorrow, hire Taylor Jenkins, please. We would, or just a coach.
Coach,
for a coach. Mike Brown.
Get everything done on our time. That'd be great.
Please. We're the ones that matter, not Knicks fans. Us, Jeremy and Andrew. Okay,
yes,
we're the ones that matter. Okay, we should wrap up. If you want to sign off, go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow for the live stream that the two of us and John will do. Should be a good one. We'll start at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. Right, Andrew? So we'll start at 5 p.m. We'll keep it going. We'll have some fun. Do we have special guests? Or is just...
If they do something, sure.
Okay, we might have some special guests. So with that, again, another episode of C.R.E.A.M in the books. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.
Boom.